Welcome to day 4 of the 10 days of business strategy sessions here right on live Facebook. My name is Zara. I am the founder of Queen of Things, and we are a company that focuses on helping you succeed as entrepreneurs as you're building and creating your businesses through providing, whether it's digital strategies or business strategies or product management strategies. We try to give you the best in order to achieve your business goals. So I'm really excited to be here today. We have an exciting topic. Yesterday, if you joined us yesterday, we talked a lot about personas. One of my favorite things. So personas, you can also call them avatars. It's your user, your customer. And so after you create your personas, what you really want to do, because those are fictional characters, you really need to validate your persona. So you really need to go the next step to validate who they are, validate your assumptions about your persona and your customer, and figure out, is this really the person that you're going after? So that's what we're doing today. Day 4 is talking about conducting user interviews or user persona interviews. And I highly recommend that especially if you're starting out or at least starting a new project, you have a new idea for your business, that once you've created your persona, that you go and validate your persona and you talk to real customers. So some people actually do what's called, research. They maybe go online or go on Google and try to figure out if their persona, for some reason, works well. And that's okay. It's a decent strategy, but I really want you to talk to real customers. That's where you'll get the most insight. It's more exciting. You get to look at what they're doing. If it's a product that you actually can hand them. We have a friend that's working on some lotions. So nice lotions, natural lotions. So what they did is actually give it to people and they watch what people did with their product. And it was so insightful and it's so incredible. And I'm glad they had the foresight to be able to do that, because you can really watch how people maneuver and how they feel, what they say, what their body language is. What they noticed when they did that is, they saw that their customer kept getting more lotion. They were like, okay, we need to make this a little thicker because we don't want them to keep, having to go and dip in. We want them to be, have nice hands and nice soft hands right away and have it be a part of it, moisturize their hands. So it was great insight when they looked and they actually brought their product to their customer. And it's far more powerful when you can actually see your customer handle your product or your service, right? So today we're talking about conducting user interviews and the insights that you can gain out of those. So one of the things that I like to do before I conduct user interviews is I may write down just on a piece of paper a couple of different topics that I want to know. So yesterday we created my persona. And so my persona was a boutique owner. She was a woman who wanted to quit her job. She had a 9-to-5. She hated it. And so she wanted to become a boutique owner. So the reason why she's maybe one of my personas is because she's a new entrepreneur. She's new. She hasn't started her business, but she wants to get started, and I need to help her get started. So the next step would be to go out and find this person, this woman who lives in Detroit, who wants to quit her job and become a boutique owner. And so I would find her, and I would suggest that you find 3 to 5 people. That's it. I'm only asking for you to find 3 to 5 people in order to interview, either over the phone or in person. A couple things I want you to do with that is try to always record your interviews, because even though you'll write things down and write insights down about your persona and what they've said to you based upon your questions, you always want to go back and review them. So I always suggest that for the most part, you interview and you record your interviews. So after you're recording them and you get started, and we'll talk about a little later about what type of questions to ask. But then I want you to create a topic map, what's called a topic map. So write down, like on a piece of paper, I brought a piece of paper, and just start jotting some things down that you want to know about your user. So one of the things on the topics, and so one of the things is demographics, right? So part of our matrix, if you remember from yesterday's topic around building your persona, is you want to know a little bit about their demographics. Demographics initially isn't as important, right? Where they come from, what they do, not as important, but I'll tell you a story. When we were doing some user interviews around a tax accountant, right? So I had an app that in one of our users, or our personas, we believed was a tax accountant. So when we wrote down some of our topics and some of the questions that we wanted to ask the tax accountant, one of our assumptions about a tax accountant is that they did their own taxes. And so another assumption was that tax accountants have the IRS on speed dial. They know exactly who to go to. They know all the tax codes, like they know everything about the IRS and the taxes. So when we did our user persona and we actually talked to 2 real tax accountants, we found out, one, they don't like doing their own taxes. That was a bad assumption of ours, but that's okay. Like, those are the type of things that are insights about your persona. You want to know and validate whether or not your assumptions that you made in your fictional character is real. So we found out, no, they don't like doing their taxes. They really prefer that you get they prefer to get professionals also in the field to do their own. So we found that out. And second thing we found out was we were actually right in our assumption, even though we made a silly assumption that they had the IRS on speed dial. And we did it actually a little bit in jest because we think tax accountants are really incredible, geeky, analytical people, that they would have, somebody on speed dial. And both actual tax accountants said, yeah, they really do. Not just for their business, but, it's just to make sure, just to check in, just to ensure that, hey, they had a relationship with someone in the IRS that if anything were to occur, they can actually make a call to. So it's really, again, important to, once you make these assumptions about your persona, that the next, time you do an interview, that you're actually focusing on validating some of those demographics and some of those personality traits that you've already written down about your persona, and just making sure, am I on track about who I'm really trying to reach? So once you've gotten down your demographics as a topic, so like who they are, how old they are, where they live, those type of things, what they like to do, what their profession is, things like that. Those are, high level, just to get the interview started. So that actually helps to ease the interviewers or interviewees' mind. It helps to just make it a little fun, right? You're not really giving hard questions or asking hard questions. You really want to know some basic things and gets everybody to start talking. So once you're done with the demographics, right, again, jot down some more topics. What do you want to know about your persona? If you're facing your customer, right, and you actually are interviewing your customer, some things you want to know will be really, again, open questions, right? So when you're asking open questions, it's the what, it's the how, it's the who, it's the where. It's not, are you X, Y, and Z? You want to stay away from the yes or no questions. You want to stay away from the yes, I do this, or no, I do that. You want to ask questions where they can elaborate, right? So it's the who, it's the what, it's the how did you do something? How did it make you feel when you went into the store and you saw a beautiful boutique? When's the last time that you've gone into a boutique to purchase a beautiful dress? So those are the type of things that you want to ask your customer. If you are a dentist, let's say, and you want to know how your services are for your customers. Maybe you sit a couple of your customers down, you give them $5 gift cards, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, and say, hey, I want to interview you, and I want you to know, I want to know a little bit about your experience here at the dental office. So if you ask someone about their experience as they attend the dental office, then that will give them more impetus to tell you more about how they feel, more about what happens when they walk in. Is there a stench in the air and they're really scared and they hear people screaming in the background? They really can you can get a sense of what is it that they care about when you're in person, face to face with your customer, asking them the right questions. So Again, going back to the topic map, you want to know, just jot down briefly what some of those topics will be. So it could be, you want to talk about one, demographics, right? We talked about that. Two, maybe you want to focus on if you are an owner of a restaurant. Maybe one of your topics would be menu, right? So just jot it down. I don't want you even to ask any questions yet. Just jot down, I want to know something about my menu. If you're a restaurant owner, maybe you'll ask about their experience in the parking lot, right? That really, from the parking lot to the actual restaurant, it could be a disaster. People could literally walk away. So depending on who your customer is, you want to just jot down a few topics. So once you have a list, and I have a really short list, right? 2 things. You just maybe make a topic map out of it. And out of it, start asking yourself those questions, right? What is your experience when you walk into my restaurant? And those are one of the questions you want to ask your customer. So write it down or type it up, whatever you need. And some other questions are, how do you feel when you do X, Y, and Z? How do you feel when you put my lotion on, and if you're selling lotions? What did you think of, let's say you're a writer and someone's reading your book and you're asking for insight about your book. How did you feel about X, Y, and Z character in my book? You really want to get really deep insight to help you gain knowledge about your product, your service, your physical product, or your virtual product, right? You need to know where to go with this thing and how you can develop it better, how you can make it better. And that's really what user insights are all about. It's one, it could help you build your business. So if you're just starting out, you're a new entrepreneur, you want to know if your business model will work. One of the things that you can do is sit down 3 to 5 people and ask them very generic questions, because you don't want to reveal your business model. You don't want to make it, if you do, it makes it a little more biased, the interview. So how do you feel when you, let's say your business model will be doing webinars, and say, how many times do you go online and do training sessions? That could be a question. So again, gaining insights about, they can say, maybe 2 to 3 times a week, or maybe they say 2 to 3 times a month. If they say 2 to 3 times a month, great. If they say, I never go online and do any trainings, it's the worst, I'd rather have an in-person trainer that I can really ask the questions to, well, that's probably not going to be your customer. That's probably not going to be your persona. So that's probably the person, and you don't want to stop the interview with them, so don't cut them off or anything. And you may want to keep going, because it can give you insight on who not to go after. Maybe this type of person isn't a good person for my particular product or my business model. So one, persona interviews can help you, yes, develop your business model, shoring it up, making sure that it will work for you, who you believe your ideal customer will be. It can too help you with your products or services. So products meaning, again, it could be a virtual product, it could be an online workbook. Products could be a lot of different things, right? It's just a generic term. So it could be also a physical product. So physical products meaning a t-shirt, if you're selling lotion, if you are selling jewelry, if you are selling makeup, what is it that you're doing to ensure that you're on the right path in creating whatever your products or services are. So that is really the big benefit of doing persona user interviews is to really gain insight. And the reason why we want insight is because we want to be more empathetic, especially as we're building things out and we want to provide value to our customers. This is the best way to do it. And it's not going to be over a computer doing research. Google is great, but there's nothing like talking to someone one-on-one, in person, getting a sense of who they are, really trying to understand where they're coming from, understand the person that they are, the things that move them or excite them, the things that bother them, their pain points. These are all things that can be incredibly valuable when you're developing and building not only your business, but the products and services that you'll be selling. And at the end of the day, I mean, we're here to, one, make our customers happy, customer first, service before self, excellence in all we do. That's funny. That's a Air Force, I think it's a mission or something. Somebody better tell me what it is. But I've always remembered that because it really, really helps. Okay, so again, conducting user interviews and personas. So going back, and I'm going to check my notes a little bit, thinking about how you ask these questions. And I want to give you some great questions to use. And you may have to flip them a little bit for your particular persona or your user. But I want to help you kind of make sure that you have at least a good start. So some background questions that you can ask. One of them is, what is your occupation? Again, we want to, in the beginning, talk a little bit about the demographics, warm up our interviewee, and just get them started to talk, right? So what is your occupation? What company do you work for? How old are you? That's sometimes a really good question. You want to know for your personas, what demographic are you trying to reach? Sometimes you'd want to ask, what kind of things do they like to do over the weekend? For me, in one of my projects, we wanted to know and we wanted to validate from our persona whether or not they were app developers on the weekend. Do we believe that app developers that have a 9-to-5 job, they like to do some things on the side? So those are the type of things that we wanted to validate as we ask some of the demographics and background questions. So you always start really easy with the demographics and background questions. So then you move on to the things that are most important. And I would prioritize some of your topics. So in one of my interviews, documentation was something that we really wanted to know. So again, we were building an app and we wanted to validate from our persona whether or not documentation and needing documentation to develop a third-party API was really important to the user. So we had about 10 questions just around documentation. And so you want to organize some of your interviews in that fashion. So if one of your topics, like mine, was documentation, some of the things we asked were, where do you expect to find your documentation? Another question would be, what did you look for in that documentation? So again, when you're thinking about interviewing people, keep it open. You want them to elaborate on their experience. You don't want them to answer yes and no questions. That's not going to give you a lot of good insight. We want them to talk about their process and how they did something, because that will gain far more insight if you just give them, yeah, I did this, or no, I didn't like that. We want to stay away from the yes or no question. So keep them open. Again, where, what, how, who are very, very good questions or starter questions, right? What do you tend to look for in searching for documentation? So those are some of the things that we asked when we were looking for insights on that particular topic around documentation. So again, when you think about your user interviews and your personas, right, think about the questions that really will gain insight and help you to develop your product or service better. And that's really what we want to get to. This shouldn't take long, right? For every interview, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Again, remember to always record them because you want to go back and refer back to what your user said and gain some insight out of it. And the key thing is just to have fun. Really, at the end of the day, user interviews are supposed to be a good time. It's a great way for you to connect directly with your customer, for you to talk to them, talk about their experience, and it will help your product and your services and you developing your business immensely. I promise, right? The moment you can provide value is the moment you'll be golden. So, I don't think there are any questions, but I think that's it. At the end of the day, once you make sure you go to day 3, look at the persona interview or persona video, and it'll help you to understand why we're doing and conducting user interviews today, because you just can't create your personas. You have to create your personas, and then you need to validate them. And that's really the thing. Create them, validate them, ensure that where you're going and where you believe the value is for your customer truly is where it is. And the only way you'll be able to do that is if you talk to people. So thanks everybody. Once again, I'm Zara, and tomorrow for day 5, I can't believe you guys, it's been almost 5 days of consistent live sessions. This is so much fun. I hope you guys are having just as good of a time as I am. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a little more fun, and we're going to talk about my next favorite thing, which is MVP. MVP. Minimal Viable Product. If you guys could be as excited as I am about talking about MVPs, you have no idea. So I'll give you a little hint. MVP is developing your product as best as you can based upon user insight. See, the insight that you got today from the interviews, and developing the smallest, best thing you can that provides the most value to your customer, and getting it out there and getting feedback. And that's pretty much MVP. But I'll break down how you get to an MVP, and maybe I'll have something in the background and maybe some post-its to help you get to MVP. It's really important, and you see how these things line up. Day 1, we were talking about our business goals. Day 1, we were talking about product goals. And so we've got the vision of where we're trying to go. Day 2 was a little fun. We talked about tools. Great. Those tools will help you get here, right? Day 3, we talked about personas. And personas are really important to help you understand where you're going, who you're providing value to. Day 4, we're talking about how to get those insights. Yes, thank you. It is my favorite. Day 4 is talking about how to get those insights, like today, right? Conducting the interviews to get those insights. And day 5 will be, okay, we'll put all of that together. We've got the insights. Let's give them the product and get more feedback to make it better. If we could all do this, we'd be much, much happier. It's how Facebook developed their app. Literally all the big players have developed in some way, shape, form, fashion an MVP. LinkedIn, it's how all the lean guys are developing their products, especially in the app world. And you could do the same with your products and services. It's just not about IT. So I hope you're as excited as I am. I'm really excited. MVP will be our last session. That's tomorrow at 6 p.m. right here on Facebook Live. Also, make sure if you haven't done so, like my page, facebook.com/Queen of Things. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go to queenofthings.com and subscribe right now. I do not inundate you with a bunch of useless information. I really try to be thoughtful in everything that I provide you guys. So if you like it, please like this video, share with your friends, and thank you so much. I will see you guys tomorrow at 6 p.m. Your girl's out. Bye.